Hi everybody, I'm Reva with Quality Sewing and Vacuum, and welcome to our How Do I series. This one is a fun one, and it is a viewer request on how to make straps for bags. So I wanted to go over a couple of little things that maybe you haven't thought of, or maybe you have, and give you a couple of variations of straps that we can do. So if you're going to do a little bag, whether it be a big bag or a little bag, doesn't matter, this is just a little one, you want to have your strap. Okay, right? Because that's how we're going to carry it. Now, if you're doing a tote bag, or especially something bigger than this, that you're going to want to have some weight into it, if you just have fabric, and I'll show you how to fold and press the fabric, but if you're just going to use fabric, it could stretch and become less strong, and so you really want to have a strong handle. This one, I have created this handle the same way I'm going to show you, so it's a little bit of overkill for this little thing, for a little wee one, but let me show you how we're going to work with making our straps. So first of all, you want to determine the width of the strap you want to make, and this happens to be a 1 inch, and we'll come back to that. But if I want a 1 inch strap, I want a 4-inch piece of fabric. So whatever your strip width finished you want it to be, you multiply that by 4, and that's what you cut your fabric at. So what I've done here to make my strap is I have folded it in half and I have pressed it. Now it's time to take our raw edges and put that in toward the fold, and I'm going to press that into place. Now it's okay if you don't get quite all the way down to the actual fold. Just being really close is good, because you know it's okay to have a little bit of a margin there, that you can have a little bit of wiggle room, and you'll see that in a second. So I'm just going to press that, and I'm going to do that for that side. So now that's nice and flat and ready to go. So now what I want to do is flip it over, and I'm going to do the same thing from the other side, and you just want to make sure that your folded edges line up together, so that way you're going to have a nice little fold. Now let me go this way, maybe you can see it a little bit better. I'm just going to tuck that right in there, and then we'll give it a nice press. Okay, so however long you want your strap to be, then you would cut your length of your fabric to that length. And the tip on getting your handles the right length is find a tote bag or a handle that you like the drop, which is the drop is how far the handle is from the top curve of the handle down to the bag. That's called the drop. So how far of a drop you want to have on your bag, and then just copy that. So if you have a tote bag you like, then that's what you'll use. So now, if I was just to use this, it feels pretty sturdy, but it actually still has some give. So let's talk about different things that we can use to stabilize our handle. The first thing I want to show you is, now this one's already been folded, is to use a fusible interfacing. You can use that. So we would just open up our piece that we've already folded, and I would place this on one side of the center fold, and then we're going to press that as we go. And I'm going to see if I can do it with keeping my crease in there, and just press as we go along, and then this will give us a little bit of extra strength in the handle itself, because we have our stabilizer in there to reinforce. Okay, so then that's all inside. You'll never see it because we put it inside our flap right there, and then I'm going to give it a really good press now that I have it in place, and we're going to get it fused into the proper location. Okay, so that one is now good to go. Now, if you want something maybe a little bit more resilient than just a piece of stabilizer, what about a ribbon? If you have a ribbon, I personally prefer to use grosgrain ribbon, but I just had this really bright yellow satin ribbon that I have no idea what I'm going to do with. So this is perfect for slipping inside of our handle. And I did the same thing with this. I measured my handle, I measured the ribbon, and then I cut the handle 4 times that width. And that's how I ended up with this strap here. In my handle on here, inside, I have a piece of ribbon. So this makes a perfectly wonderful, stable insides to your handle without adding a lot of bulk. Okay, now maybe your pattern for your tote bag calls for webbing and you don't have the right color of webbing. You can cover it. This is 1 inch wide, so I cut this at 4 inches, and then when I tucked it in, I left a little bit of a space in there because this is thick, so it needs a little bit of extra room to get in there. And then all we do is lay this in there, and now we have a perfect handle that's going to match our project, and it's going to be strong just like webbing, because it is webbing, but the webbing doesn't show, the color doesn't show. Another thing to think about when you're doing the webbing is, like I mentioned, the thickness of the webbing, because if you're using a cotton webbing, it might actually be even thicker, so you might want to do a test. Now let's talk about sewing our webbing down. So when we're going to be doing our stitching, I'm going to use, this is just a standard foot. You can use different feet, and let me get that there. Can you see, I'm going to get my little scissors here. Can you see this little line right there? That line is 1/8 of an inch from center. So I'm actually going to eyeball the edge of my strap right into this little part here, and it's actually in line with the silver part of the foot right there. So let me put my foot on. These are snap-on feet, which make it so easy to put them on. Okay, so now on my my machine, I have it set for a straight stitch, but at a longer stitch length. I have it at a 3.5 stitch length. I'm going to lower my foot, and I have that little little line that I showed you. That's 1/8 of an inch to the right of center. I have that aligned with the single folded edge of my the single folded edge of my strap there. The double one is on this side. We'll come back and do that in a minute. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate my needle down, so that way if I have to stop, I will stop with the needle down, and I'm going to push my go button. Now I want to eyeball my fabric so it stays there. What you can do, once you have it going where you want it to go, if you hold your fingers right on either side, you'll actually direct your strapping right into the exact spot where you want it to go on your machine. So it makes it really easy to sew a straight line, because your strap is actually just running right along the inside of your fingers. It's starting to undo there, isn't it? So I'm going to just lift it up, make sure it's back flat the way I want it to be, and then push my go button. Or of course use your foot control if that is how you prefer to sew. Okay, so now we've got that one done, and now I'm going to come and I'm going to do the opposite side of the strap. Okay, so now this one, I am going to come in and I am going to do the same thing with that, and I'm just going to stitch it down. Now, if you've ever done a pattern and it calls for you to take and sew a tube to make your strap, that can be really difficult to do, and it's just hard to turn right side out. So if you cut your fabric 4 times the width of your strap, you're actually going to have a much better success. So there we've got our nice strong strap that actually matches our project really well, and it's ready to go. We're just going to do the same thing. If you're working with our narrow strips, we're going to be back on, if we're going to work with our narrow strips, you're going to do the same thing. The 1/8 of an inch is perfectly fine on both sides. And so that's as easy as it is to make a strap. So I hope you have fun making tote bags. We all love making them, and I look forward to seeing you the next time on our next How Do I?